So, welcome to the Norfolk County Council and Norfolk Chambers of Commerce procurement webinar. My name is Chris Sargison and I'll be guiding you through this full and very info-rich agenda this afternoon. Both the County Council and the Chamber are really driven to ensure that every relevant Norfolk business should be able to take full advantage of the many procurement opportunities that exist in the county, and there are many. So by the end of this session, we hope to give you a greater understanding of what's involved when bidding for public sector contract. There goes the dog. Sorry about that. How will this work? Well, the session's really broken down into two parts. Each part will begin with an intro from an extremely knowledgeable and talented Norfolk County Council procurement expert, followed by a relevant case study and insight from some very brilliant businesses who are happy to share. This is an interactive webinar. So you're absolutely encouraged to ask every speaker as many questions as you like. Now, to do so, what I'd like you to do is to use the Zoom Q&A function, not the chat button or the audio, which will stay on mute. So no audio, no hands up in this session if you're used to that. It's Q&A all the way. It rhymes to help you remember, and I will be reminding you as we go. So take a moment to familiarize yourself, if you can, with those functions. They are located at the bottom of your screen, and sometimes you need to wiggle your mouse to activate them if they're not showing straight away. I will present as many of your questions as possible back to the speakers during the Q&A sessions. And as we are really tight on time, we probably won't get to answer all of them, but we will be following up the sessions after this webinar, and we'll tell you a bit more on that later. One very last important point, when you are asking a question, please can you indicate who the question is for? We'll also be using the poll function, which is next to the Q&A, but I'll tell you a little bit about that. We've got 3 polls and you'll know about them because I'll say, here comes a poll. Speakers, one last reminder as well, this is a really tight running order, so please keep to time, and I will give you a minute warning if you need one. So, without further ado, and let's start us off, I'm very, very pleased to welcome Deputy Leader for the Norfolk County Council, Graham Plant. So Graham, over to you. Mute. Graham, you need to unmute yourself. There we go.
Thank you very much. It was getting to the mute button. And thank you for your introduction. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us for this exciting procurement webinar for local small and medium-sized enterprise businesses. We have been working together with the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce to bring you our Bid Ready event today, which we hope will inspire and prepare your business to access Norfolk County Council and the wider public sector's procurement opportunities at a time when the world is rapidly changing. COVID-19 continues to have a huge impact for many, and we express our deepest sympathy to all of those who have been affected. We are very aware that the pandemic has presented local businesses with extraordinary challenges, and supporting you to tackle this remains one of our key priorities. The pandemic has also been a catalyst for change, driving our local businesses to think differently about the ways it can operate and access new opportunities. That is why we want to help local businesses take advantage of some of the significant local government procurement opportunities. Norfolk County Council procured over £1.4 billion of goods and services alone last year in 2019 and 2020. Today's event will provide guidance on our tendering process. Although we can't guarantee your success, we want to share some tips on how to write a tender, options for bidding, and the importance of your web presence, along with showcasing some local businesses that are now working with Norfolk County Council. Norfolk Chambers of Commerce will be launching our business diagnostic tool to help local business win more work from the Norfolk public sector in 2021 and beyond. Whilst the new Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership will be highlighting some of the local grants and support that is available to you during these challenging times, we have curated a lineup of high caliber speakers from a range of businesses who will share their valuable insights, expertise, and experience with you to help even the smallest business prepare to bid for Norfolk County Council and the wider public sector opportunities. Hosted by Chris Sargison of Norfolk Chambers of Commerce, I'm delighted to welcome these speakers here today, which include Annie Southgate from our Norfolk County Council procurement team, Michael Price from Uniotech, Kirsty Pitcher from the Benjamin Foundation, Hugh Sayer from Business Writers Limited, Lou Gardner from ACE, and Jason Middleton from the New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. Thank you all for joining us. We'll also be running a series of polls throughout the webinar to get your feedback and thoughts about the sessions. This will be used to develop future support opportunity to ask any questions you might have. So please do let us know what you think. And thank you for your time today as well. I'll hand back to Chris now.
Thanks, Graham. That's really helpful and really insightful. And again, thank you for your cooperation and collaboration in getting this vital information out to the business community. So with that in mind, actually, let's have our first poll, which I think is coming up. For those of you that can't see it, you access the poll by moving your mouse to the bottom and clicking the poll button. And the first question is a really obvious one. Do you know how to apply for public sector work? 3 simple answers: yes, no, or unsure. I'm kind of guessing, which I hope will be the answer, bearing in mind that you're all here, but I'm going to give you 5 more seconds to access it. Actually, no, I'm going to give you longer than that. Let's say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there we go. So 39% of the people here are unsure and as to how to apply for public sector work. So hope the next hour and 45 minutes we will be able to remedy that. And we're going to start with guidance on the tendering process and tips on how to write tender. I'd like to welcome Annie Southgate, who is the Senior Procurement Specialist at Norfolk County Council. Annie, when you're ready, good to have you. 40% plus people need to know about what we do. So
hopefully I'll be able to take the mystery out of bidding for public sector work. So there is no mystery really. As I said, my name is Annie Southgate. I've been working for the council in procurement now for over 12 years. But before that, I also have worked for a family business, my family business, and I've worked as a contracts manager at Norwich CAB. So I've seen both sides of procurement. I know how much work goes involved for you providers, excuse my dog, for you providers pulling everything together for a tender or a quote. And also I've applied. So I've applied for grant funding at the CAB, and also I've applied to get work from the public sector and from various other places. So hopefully I can sort of show you how it is from both sides. Next slide, please. Oh, I sound like Boris. So why do we have to tender at all? Why do we actually have this process? We have to, because it is your money that we're dealing with, we have to show that we've been through a really clear and fair process. So we have all these regulations that, as you can see on the slide, that all come into the procurement process, so that we've got an auditable process as to how we've spent people's money and how we've awarded contracts. It can be quite complex. So we've taken all these processes, and I hope that you'll get to learn by the end of this presentation that actually there is no mystery to it, and it's something that we want to work very closely with providers so it's clearer how you can bid and you can win this work. Next slide, please. So there's various types of procedures. I'll go through them very quickly. My notes will be available afterwards from the slides, so hopefully that'll mean something to you. But after this, I hope that you know that we are approachable in procurement, and if you're bidding for anything and you're unsure, talk to us. And I want that to be a message that you do get quite strongly from this. So the first one I'm going to talk about is request for quote, which it is what it says. It is where we'll either contact you directly, asking you to quote, or we will come out for 3 to 5 quotes, and it is sort of quite a more informal process. The value of that can be anything from £1,000 up to £50,000. The open process is what it is. It's open to all, and it will be advertised in one of the various places that I'll tell you about. And as long as you can hit the minimum standards, then you'll be able to apply. The restricted process, it is a two-phase process where we'll have more bids come in and we do a shortlisting process. I always like to think of procurement as applying for a job. It is an application process, and whether you're successful or not is whether you'll be awarded a contract. There are lots of other different procurement processes, such as competitive dialogue, but these are the more common ones. So I'll just go through those at this time because I'm conscious that we have got a lot to get in. Next slide, please. So we're very much guided by the value, the aggregate value of the contract that we're looking to award, not an annual value. If we're buying widgets, then we'll be looking at one-off costs. So anything below £10,000 will be a quote. So go to you directly, or it'll be advertised on Contracts Finder or one of the other places for you to apply to. And that would be a little less informal process. Between 10 to 50,000, that's normally a quote process where we go out to either 3 to 5 companies or it's advertised. And generally anything above £50,000, we will carry out a full competitive tender process. Next slide, please. So where can you find out about these? Well, I've mentioned Contracts Finder. All through these processes, there is no way you should be paying to find out how to apply for work with the public sector. I'm aware there are these various websites that you can sign up to and you pay an annual fee and they'll send you things that they think are suitable, but you shouldn't have to pay for them. So there's Contracts Finder, the council's e-tendering system. You'll be contacted directly, or you can look on OSU or Google. With Contracts Finder, again, to find that, just go into Google, put Contracts Finder in, make sure you go to the UK one, look for the thing that says uk.gov after it to make sure that that's okay. Apologies if you can hear a phone ringing. I don't know where that's coming from. I thought I turned everything off, so I apologise about that. Hopefully you can't hear it. Next slide, please. So other ideas that I've had for you to find out about work is, if we're going out for a huge tender, or whenever we go out for a tender, once the contract has been awarded, we are obliged to advertise that fact that we've awarded a contract and who we've awarded to. So if you knew, for instance, that there was something like the Third River Crossing coming up, or you'd seen that perhaps there was a new school being built, or there was a great big project going on at County Hall, and you didn't feel that perhaps you could bid for that one, but you might want to be a subcontractor on it, or you might be able to supply them materials. It's always worth looking at contracts that have been awarded to see who we've been awarded to, and then you can contact them to see if you could be any help. That might be a way that you could benefit from work in the future. You might be able to sort of look on Contracts Finder as well. We have to place all the award notices on there. So you might be able to find out from that way. Or if you see things being advertised, you may not be able to produce or provide the whole service by yourself, but you could sort of get together with somebody else. And I'll come on to work in a consortium later in the slides. Next one, please. You might also have heard about framework agreements. These are things that are run by us. We hold framework agreements. They're also with ESPO, who are Eastern Shires Purchasing Organisation, or CCS, which is Crown Commercial Services. You will see them apply like we do, asking for people to join a framework. So it's very much like a pre-approved list of providers that we can call off quite quickly if we need to. And they all come under what I think of as an umbrella terms and conditions. So you sit under there and you can either be awarded contracts directly, or you might be invited to take part in further competition. It takes all the shortlisting process out, and we don't have to ask you health and safety questions and about your financial situation, or whether you're actually suitable to provide the service, because we've already done that. So there are various frameworks that we have for constructions, for supplies. ESPO isn't run by Norfolk County Council, that's run by Eastern Shire's purchasing organisation, but it's worth visiting their website to see what they've got coming up, because there may be things that the council will buy through ESPO because there's discounts offered, but there's no reason why you can't apply to be on one of those frameworks for either ESPO or for Crown Commercial Services. Next slide, please. Okay, so what now? You've found something that you think you'll be going to be able to offer the council, and you want to tender for it, you want to bid for it. So there'll be a pack sent out, or you can download a pack from the Intend site, which I'll explain later, and that will contain instructions for how to fill it out. There will be some minimum standard questions, which will be things like, if we were going out for a care contract, it may be a requirement that you have CQC or Ofsted, or there may be some other qualification that you need to have, like driving license or something like that. So it's worth considering those minimum questions first of all, because if you haven't got them, you may think, well, there's no point me applying, and that'll save you some time. Or you might want to get those standard things for you to answer, and there'll also be indication of the price. The price may be capped. If it's capped, then you don't want to go over that cap. But if you read within the specification, which is the next slide down, which tells you all about the service, how we want it provided, what we want provided, our general requirements. If you think, well, actually, the council have said they want all this gold-plated service provided for £10,000 and you don't think it's doable, you need to tell us that. This is, you know, this is what we want. We want providers to be telling us that where we're going wrong, and that perhaps our spec is too gold-plated, won't actually get us where we want to be. There'll be the contract. You need to sort of alert anyone that you need to check through the terms and conditions if you want to review it, if you wanted to engage any legal people just to check the T's and C's. Again, if you see anything in there that you're not happy with, you need to be letting us know. Any information that you might need like this, such as TUPE information, will be available in the pack as well. With things like that, though, you have to sign a confidentiality agreement. The minimum qualification, no, it's fine. Sorry, thank you. One bit of advice I would give when you've got all these documents is read everything. We've tried to make them as interesting as possible, although interesting in procurement, but I hope that you will go through them. Don't skim things. Again, if there's anything you don't understand, come back to us. Read the spec, read the contract. If there are social value requirements, do you understand and can you deliver them? I've put a link into, and I've put an explanation on my notes about what social value is if people don't understand it, but it could be something as simple as looking after the environment, cutting down on journeys, things like this, how you're going to keep the Norfolk pound in Norfolk. So read the section about how to respond, check the deadline. That's really important. We don't want you to miss the deadline. If you put all that work into writing a bid, we want to have it. Next slide, please. Something else for you to consider is, can you actually deliver what we're asking? Can you meet the requirements for experience, financial stability? Can you meet the health and safety? Do you need to engage anybody beforehand? Do you need to speak to a subcontractor? If it's something that you're going to be doing for us and you need to sub out a piece of work, is the subcontractor that you'd like to use, are they going to be able to meet the timeline as well? Ask clarification questions, and I do keep banging on about this, but this is your opportunity during a tender process to write into us, say, can you just explain this? We don't get that. You've asked us to wear pink socks every Tuesday. If you made it red socks on a Thursday, you could actually save a bit of money, or you could tighten the timescale you've got on your project. It's things like that that we need to know about. We publish our clarifications on our website anonymously. Although I always say to people, if there's anything you put in your clarification question that you consider to be your IPR, let us know. But I would much rather receive 100 clarification questions, I know we've got quite that many, from you than you caveat your bid. If you caveat your bid, we have to reject you because we have to be able to evaluate on a like-for-like basis. So review how your bid will be evaluated. How are we actually going to be looking at it? How are we going to be scoring it? And consider the price carefully. Can you actually deliver what we've been asked for? So answering the questions, this is your opportunity to actually tell us how you're going to do something. Read the question carefully. Go back to that job application that I was banging on about. When you're applying for a job, you're really careful about how you're going to be answering the question. So treat it exactly the same as you would with this. Read the question carefully. If there's 2 parts to it, make sure you answer both parts. If there's bullet points, make sure you answer those bullet points. Consider the weighting. If something is if the quality for the weighting in total is 70% and one of the questions is 35%, that gives you an indication how important that we think that question is and your response to it. So that's the one that you need to concentrate on. Note the word count. This is where you can use clarifications. If a question is weighted 20%, for instance, and we tell you we want you to do it in 200 words, and you think, well, come on, they're having a laugh here. There's no way I can do that. Tell us. We might have missed a 0 off. We're human. And I hope by the end of this, you'll sort of realise that procurement people are human too. So if the word count is ridiculous, or you think you can get your response over to the council better by doing a diagram, bullet points, flow chart, whatever it is, ask us if that's okay to have that put in. And don't forget, when you're writing your response to the question, tell us how. Please don't just say, I can do it fantastically, Bob. You wouldn't just say, yes, I can clean your windows and I'll clean them really well. You would actually go into a little bit more detail. So please remember to do that. Next slide, please. Clarifications, I know I keep banging on about them, but it is really, really important. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because I do go on about it. Next slide, please, Kayleen. So checking a bid, gather all the documents that are requested. There's normally a checklist at the back of the tender documents or the quote document to tell you what you need to put in there. So just go through that and make sure. Look at the word limits. Is the question that you've answered, is it relevant? Have you explained the how? Only what is the tender counts. So again, when you're looking at that job application, just because you know that that person can do that job standing on their head, if they don't put it in that application, to be fair and transparent, you can't include it. And also, you're assuming things. It might be just because I know Marks and Spencer's does absolutely fantastic bread and they bid to provide bread, well, they might have changed their baker. So I can only go on what they put down on the day. Ask someone neutral to read it. I think that's a really good thing. That's what I used to do at the CAB. When you're writing a bid, you get so close to it and so involved that you sometimes think that you've covered everything that you haven't, and you get someone else to look at it and then you feel quite a numpty because you've forgotten quite a bit. Don't approach any individuals at the authority. Please use intend or whatever way they ask you to email in. And it also saves any time delays. So for instance, if I was doing a tender and I won the lottery, as dedicated as I am, another member of my team would be able to pick it up if I was in the Maldives. Next slide, please. So submitting your bid, I think this slide says it all. Check, sign, check and consider. They're the things. And again, keep talking to if there's anything you're unsure about. Next slide, please. Evaluation. If there's anything that we think is really wrong, we will come back and speak to you. So for instance, if you put the decimal point in the wrong place, if we're expecting to see £1 million bid and it comes out as 100,000, then obviously I would come back to you, or a member of my team would, just to make sure that there's no admin errors. Similarly, when we're scaling through or just quickly reading through the bids, if there's a bit of a copy and paste exercise and perhaps something's missed out, we will come back to you. As I say, really good, important bids are important to us. So if it looks like it's a genuine admin error, we will come back to you. The scores will be done in line with the evaluation process in the document. I didn't realise how much I'm flapping my hands about. So anyway, so you'll be scored in line with those. So have a look at the descriptors. We want you to hit a 5. A 5 is excellent. It's really important that that you do that. You will be given your scores and you will be given some feedback, whatever the result. Next slide, please. My final bit of advice is read through the documents, use the clarification process to ask any questions, and meet the deadlines given. So just as a thing that came out 2 days ago, supplying to the public sector are changing. We used to say you could go on OSU. That is now changing from the 31st of December. So you'll have access to where you can find out about all these on these slides. But I would say keep looking on OSU, because anything we've done previously and contracts awarded will be on OSU. We also put pins out, which is prior information notices, and they're normally asking for engagement with the market. So we'll be inviting you to have one-to-one sessions with the council, which is brilliant. I think they're great. Or we might do Zoom meetings or use Teams to actually engage with the market. So if you see something like that out, then please do apply, because it's your chance to actually talk to us about what you can provide and what you can't provide, discuss what our requirements and see whether you can actually meet them. Next slide, please. So please remember, we want you to be successful. We want quality providers to deliver quality service that will make a difference to people's lives in Norfolk. And we very much want to work with you to do it. We don't want you to think, well, it's Norfolk County Council or it's the public sector. We can't do anything with you. You can talk to us. And it's really important for us that you see us as somebody good to do business with. Thank you.
There we go. Thanks, Annie. Well, very clearly, I can let you know that you don't sound at all like Boris. So that's a good thing to take away. And I think you very clearly demonstrated that procurement people are very human. So we've had some questions come in. There you go. Mission accomplished. And at some point in your presentation, I think you had at least 2 ideas, because there was a very clear ping, which is obviously coming out your brain when you have great new ideas. We've had some questions come in, but if you'd like to ask any more questions on that, then Q&A is the way. Remember to mark your question, please, question for Annie, and we'll pick them up in a short while. Right, we're very lucky actually. Now we've got our first case study, and to do that, I'd like to welcome Michael Price, who is CEO of Unitech. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
so can you hear me?
I can hear you, and we can see you. So
excellent.
So, Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Very interesting, and looking forward to finding out a bit more about your experiences. And your time starts whenever you start speaking. Really.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael. I'm CEO of Unitech. We're a small business, team of 5 if you include Oscar the dog. We started the business back in 2018, so we're still quite new. And we provide Internet of Things solutions. So it's basically sensors connected to the internet to collect data from things that you probably wouldn't have collected data from in the past. So you can have the next slide, please. Great. So how do we get started with Norfolk County Council? Well, it all kicked off at a conference back in 2018. Norfolk County Council was sponsoring an Internet of Things conference in Norwich. We went along, we spoke to a whole load of different people from different departments within the council, and talked to them about the challenges that they face within their departments, and how possibly the Internet of Things could help with that. And from that networking, we set up a couple of follow-up meetings, and went on to a trial project, which was around road temperature monitoring for winter gritting. And that particular project went really well. And so if you go on to the next slide, please. From there, we've moved on to a range of different projects. So from working with one department, the highways team in the council, our contacts in the highways department spoke to their colleagues in other departments, and word got out that we could potentially help with a variety of different problems. So we've gone on from road temperature sensing, which you can see on the right hand side there, attachment to the weather stations. We've done mapping for county, we've done water level monitoring on bridges for rivers, temperature monitoring for document storage archives, visitor tracking and people counters for museums and on the beach at Horsey there. So there's a whole range of different things that from one project we've moved on to a whole load of other opportunities within Norfolk County Council. And we move on to the next slide, please. You see from our contact with Norfolk, local authorities like to share best practice. So all the different people that we've worked with within Norfolk County Council speak to their colleagues in other councils. Norfolk's particularly at the forefront of the Internet of Things rollout across the UK. So they've been in contact with a lot of other local authorities. And when you have a successful project with one local authority, they'll talk to others, and it's led to inquiries and contracts with all of these organisations you see on the screen. So just from one small project, we started with projects under £10,000. It's a really easy process to go through. The request for quote process is pretty simple. Registering with the council as a provider is really easy, and from there we've worked up to larger projects and other authorities. So I'd highly recommend getting in contact with people in the council. You can find the relevant contacts on the website, and if you've got a service that might be of use, talk to the people that are potentially looking to buy that, as well as all of the contract finder parts that Annie's mentioned earlier. So that's it from me, nice and brief.
No, that's brilliant, Michael. Thank you so much. I mean, that's motivating and kind of inspirational, really. It's what every business wants, isn't it? Those magical words, the word got out. Word got out, project led to another, which is great. So you know the message really that procurement doesn't just lead to sort of one opportunity, but opens up greater opportunities. So thank you for that. That's really valuable insight.
No problem.
So stick around, Michael, if you don't mind. Questions for Michael or thoughts from Michael would be great. Please use the Q&A function to do that, and we'll be hopefully picking them up and asking him when we get to the Q&A shortly. So now I'm going to welcome our second case study, which is coming from Kirsty Pitcher, who is the Interim Chief Operating Officer for the very, very brilliant Benjamin Foundation. Kirsty, can you hear me?
I can, yes. Thank you, Chris.
Not at all. It's good to have you here. Thank you so much.
It's okay, thank you.
So we're ready when you are. Take it away.
I'm ready. I don't have any slides today. I just wanted to kind of talk to you. I've got some notes, so I'll be looking at those. So please forgive me, everyone. So I'm from the Benjamin Foundation. We're a charity working across Norfolk. We also do some work in Suffolk too, but our roots were in Norfolk, and we still deliver the main body of our work here. We're a charity that our mission is to empower young people to be resilient, independent members of society. If you know anything about the Benjamin Foundation, you will all know different things about us. So some of you may have donated your sofa to us or bought your sofa from us. We're very pleased either way. Others of you may know about our supported accommodation services that we provide, where we have hostel accommodation for young people and supported lodgings. Others of you may know about our early years services. We run nurseries, preschools, after school clubs. We do youth work. We run young carers groups. What else do? We do emotional wellbeing sessions in schools, and we provide family support. So when you think about the range of work that we do, of course, we're going to come into contact with procurement on a fairly regular basis. And of course, we're going to be involved in contracting in all different ways in order to do that. So, when we have social enterprises, we have all the services that we deliver, at least 30. We're involved in some major contracts, some minor contracts, some frameworks, some partnership working, and that idea of competitive tender is a part of what we do. But what I want to give the message today is about how we do that and how we collaborate with others to do that, and collaborate with other organisations, even with sole traders. So I've thought today about kind of my top tips when I think about being bid ready. I think it's interesting that the session today is called bid ready, because that sounds really frightening. That's a bit like being beat ready, which I kind of, You know, it seems quite unachievable, but actually I guess the message today, and certainly that Annie has given that friendly face of procurement in terms of it is about being approachable and about being able to ask questions. Annie talked about kind of the opportunities such as the pins, the notices that go out, and I would say to really use any market engagement opportunities that are about. Even sometimes a notice comes out for something called a soft market test. I think that's the right wording. It's that opportunity to have informal conversations with people. Yes, we've been doing it over Zoom recently, but otherwise it's been face-to-face before. To have a chat about some of the ideas that you have and the way you're intending to deliver something and seeing if that fits. Annie mentioned clarification questions. They're so important. I guess the other bit for me is have a look at them, even if you don't have any questions, because it's really interesting to see what other people have said. They've maybe read something differently, or they're clarifying something that you hadn't even picked up on. So it's really useful to do that. I'd also say that the clarification questions always have a cut-off date. And so it's about being prepared in advance for that, because there's no use having a really burning question after that date. They do have to have that process in place. Annie talked about some of the requirements that you have to have. And I guess there is sometimes a bit of flexibility. So sometimes we've come across situations where it is asked for something like, example I think of is a contract. It asked you to have employers' liability insurance of £10 million, for example. And we were working with somebody and they had £5 million. And actually it was about saying, well, they were prepared to up that, but there would be a cost in doing that. So actually it was about putting forward that we would be willing to have the 10 million in place if we needed to have it, if we were successful or awarded the contract. And again, we were able to ask that through the clarification process. Seek opportunities for partnership and collaboration. You know, I come here today, we're a fairly large organisation. Yes, I have a bid writer. I don't have a team, we just have one bid writer. But again, we do understand that we're really fortunate to have that and to be experienced at writing bids and tenders and seeking opportunities. But equally, we love working with other people to do that, you know, either where we're the lead agency or where others are as well, to collaborate. We've worked with other charity organisations, we've worked with sole traders. So a really good example was the Norwich Opportunity Area opportunity that came up, and it was about delivering parenting support and family support. And it required you to be able to deliver a set number of parenting courses. Now we have some trainers and we could do that, but we knew we didn't have the capacity to deliver all of them in the time frame. So we approached other trainers who were acting as sole traders or as consultants, and we got them on board. So we subcontracted that element of the work. We did due diligence, we set up a contract with them to make it fair. But it was about then, that gave them the opportunity to be a part of that contract going forward, which benefited them as well. The other thing is that really is important is about making sure that it's a match. So I work really hard and I'm a little bit addicted to reality TV programs. And in the evenings, the one I've got into recently is Married at First Sight. And in that, they match people based on science. Well, contracting is a little bit like that. Read the specification through. Is it a match with what you have to deliver, what you have to provide, and how you want to do it? It has to be a fit with your ethos and your culture. You know, the impact that you're seeking. So as an organisation, we know what impact we're seeking. And so it's about, you know, the way of working is important to us. We wouldn't compromise on that in order just to fit something if it wasn't right for us. Importantly, it will feel right. The Norwich Opportunity tender I talk about a lot. It was actually one that where we scored our highest. And I firmly believe that was because we absolutely believed in what we were writing. It felt like the questions were written for us. It was exactly what we had been wanting to deliver. We had evidence it was needed. We could prove we could do it in a way that would work. So it just felt right. And it was, you know, I wrote it. It was a pleasure to write. I guess we have walked away from things. We have stopped. So if it is too much of a compromise, I have even got to the stage where I've been, not with Norfolk, I have to say, but in another situation, tendering for something, had to tweak the budget and pull out bits that I thought, oh, this is compromising on what we want to deliver. I don't think this feels safe. And we pulled out. And yes, we lost that opportunity, but it wouldn't have been right for us. And another opportunity came along further down the line that was. learn from the feedback you get. You know, we've won some, we've lost some, you know, we've learned from each opportunity. You know, I do sulk a little bit, but we get over it and other opportunities come along. And I guess that's what I wanted to share today. So I hope that's been helpful.
Kirsty, that's been amazing. As you can probably tell, I am in a permanent state of beach readiness and can often be found on the beach at sea pooling in an anorak and various other bits and bobs, but we won't go there. So top tips for business is one of the best things I think ever, really, because it really does mean that businesses are supporting businesses, which is such a powerful thing. So we really appreciate you giving us that insight. That helps us enormously. So we've got some questions that have come in through the Q&A app, and we've also had some other ones that have come to us via the chat. So I'm just going to move on to that section now, if that's okay. But Annie, if you wouldn't mind, sorry, Kirsty, if you wouldn't mind staying there in case anything comes your way. So the first question actually is for Annie, and it's from Emily Harvey. How do you select companies when requesting quotations? Do you take information from intended hosts? So how do you select companies when requesting a quotation? Do you take information from intended hosts?
That will all depend on the value. If the value of the contract is under £10,000, we may just approach one particular company who we've heard about, we've done business before, or we go on the website and find out they're good, or we go out to companies. My second presentation will cover a bit of that about websites and how we actually find you. If the value is in excess of £10,000, then we will either advertise it on Contracts Finder, and you'll be able to find out all about it and apply.
Okay, thank you very much. So hopefully that picks up your question, Emily. Do keep them coming in. We've had another one here. This is a great one. Hopefully you can answer it. What are the big projects? I like the way they use the word big, not little, medium. What are the big projects that Norfolk County Council will be procuring in 2021 and over the next few years?
That's a really good question. I work on the pipeline for our team, so we hear about all the things that are coming in. Again, we keep an eye on the adverts because they go out as future opportunities where we'll want to start engaging with the market to find out about them. Sometimes we start engaging with the market, put out a pin, but it doesn't actually come to anything because we actually engage with the market and find out that it's not doable, or for one reason or another, the budget is reduced or pulled. You'll appreciate in this current climate that can happen. So I would just say, just keep an eye on different websites. The council runs its e-tendering website, which is called Intend.
Oh.
I will have available, anybody can register, and then you can see any opportunities that come along.
Fantastic, thank you. Are there any particular areas where you can see more procurement happening, the sectors that you think that are coming up that are quite strong?
Construction. We've got quite a bit of construction work coming along with children's services. So if something is construction, we normally call off our framework. We have a framework of contractors that we use for various bits of work. But I'll keep an eye on planning with that, because we do encourage them to use local suppliers as much as possible. That's something that is really important to us. There's a lot of that coming along, so keep an eye on planning. Ask the council what they've got coming up. You can go to Children's Services to see what work they've got coming up. Corporate Property Team, CPT, they'll be able to tell you what things they've got coming up. But there's a single contract register which is available on the site, and it lets you know of all the contracts that are coming to an end. It sort of tells you all about all the spend that the council have made. We have to do that under the transparency regulations for anything over £500. It doesn't mean we're going to renew them, but another way of finding out is if there's work that the council are doing construction wise or otherwise. Sometimes there's a board up that you can see, and it might be that you'll be able to supply on site. If you hear about construction work going on, you want to be able to provide to them, then contact somebody. If you see a Kia sign, for instance, up and Norfolk County Council underneath it, that would be some work that Kia have won from the council. Contact them. There may be IT work connected with that. There could be building supplies. You might have a depot just around the corner that they pay to store some stuff. There's all those sorts of opportunities.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly do a bit of housekeeping here, because I can see that Christiana Sadler and Alistair have got their hands up. Sadly, I can't bring you in and turn off your mic, but if you've got a particular question, please put your hand down and then put it in the Q&A, and I'll happily present it to the panel. Let's just talk quickly to Michael and Kirsty again. Michael and Kirsty, from your experiences of procurement, what were the bits that you can't, because you obviously go into it with a sort of broad understanding of things that you know. What were the immediate unknowns? What bits did you hit in the process and thought, oh, I didn't know that, when you started it? And then how did you go about getting that information?
For me, it's what I call the twiddly bit, which are the bits at the beginning of a bid, and they're really not me. So it's about finding someone that can help me with those. So, and make sure, because they are different from time to time. So it's the bits that ask about, and I guess for me, that was quite unknown. You know, I know what we want to deliver, what we want to provide, and I want to do the exciting writing about that. But those twiddly bits, which are about, you know, our compliance and about, you know, our insurances and all of those, I always get someone else to do that bit if I can.
Yeah, from my point of view, I'd say working directly with Norfolk County Council has been really easy. So the procurement team had told us everything we needed to know for that. Slightly more challenging bit was we moved on to joining one of the dynamic purchasing schemes in the Crown Commercial Service, and there is a lot of questions involved in that. And for small businesses, a lot of those are not relevant. So if you read the documentation first, it makes it a lot less daunting, because there might be 100 questions, but actually the majority of those only apply to much larger contracts and projects, and therefore for a small business you don't have to provide that information. And some of the requirements look pretty scary if you've not done any of these sort of things before, but actually it can be quite a lot easier than it appears. So yeah, read all the information, because there's some useful details hiding in there.
That's great. Thank you so much. Twiddly bits and read the small prints. That's just what we need to know. So Annie, I'm going to come back to you if I can, because there's a couple more questions here. We'll try and quickly squeeze in so we can stay on time. Does Norfolk County Council always try and procure goods and services locally? And if not, why not?
We are bound by certain regulations. We have to make everything fair and transparent as much as we can. We do want to encourage to use local services in Norfolk as much as possible. But there may be those companies that are looking to move into Norfolk and bring more money in. So we don't want to discourage them either, because they could mean more jobs to people in Norfolk. We do look at social value, about keeping the pound in Norfolk and about the environment in Norfolk. So we do as much as we are possibly able to keeping within the parameters that of the regulations that we have to adhere to. Okay,
I clearly added the if not, why not for dramatic effect there as well.
Does that answer that question?
It does, I think, very neatly. Thank you very much.
I know.
I was just saying that I added the if not, why not there for sort of dramatic effect. One last quick question before we move on. If we bid and we're not successful, are we able to find out why?
Yes, you are. Especially for the larger ones, we recognise there's an awful lot of work that goes into pulling a bid together, as Kirsty has alluded to. So we will give you feedback. So if you score a 2 or a 3 or a 4, or whatever the score is, there will be the reason as to why you've scored that, the rationale, and we are able to give you feedback afterwards. If you wanted to speak to somebody about procurement once a particular tender is finished, I can't go into the ins and outs of what the panel has decided because I'm only a procurement bod, but I can give you some high level things about where you could have improved, and you can use that feedback when you bid again. Kirsty, how have you felt that? You've received feedback before?
Yeah, we have, and that's helped us just in terms of, often it's frustrating because it's things that you know and you haven't written down properly, or so I think we learn from that all the time, and I think it's really valuable to have feedback, of course.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Kirsty, Michael, thank you so much indeed for taking the time out and giving us your insight. It's been really, really helpful. So Annie, I'm going to bring you back in again in a minute because you're on for the next bit. But before I do that, we have another poll, which is going to ask us what might seem a slightly random question, but it has a point. If you could quickly vote now on this one, the question is, do you have a website? Boom, 100%. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, one person saying no. There we go. Fantastic. That's a very, very, very clear indication of the digital age that we're in. Coming to an end now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. Thank you so much for that. All will become clear, I'm sure. So let's start our next session. Please welcome back Annie Southgate, who, for those who don't remember, is the Senior Procurement Specialist at Norfolk County Council, who's going to talk about consortiums, subcontracting, and the importance of your web presence. There you go. There's why the poll was there. So Annie, over to you again, please.
Thank you very much. So this is part 2. I didn't get any duff-duffs with the last one, so perhaps I should add that in if I do this again, get some duff-duffs, because you've got a part 2 coming up. Okay, so next slide, please, Kayleen. So how do we find you? This is all about your websites and your web presence and how we know about you. So if we're looking for a quick quote within the council, I often get a phone call and they're asking me how do they find somebody? And if they don't know, I will sort of mention to them, perhaps they go online. So departments that want the services, they search for possible companies online. If you haven't got a web presence, which a very small percentage of you haven't, we won't know about you. Your web page doesn't, if your I'll put my teeth back in. If your web page doesn't work properly or only contains a contact us form, it won't tell us much about you and we're looking for something. So if it's something creative that we're looking for, does it actually say so on the website? Does it give you an example? Does it make a really good impression? We use Google as much as anybody to find out about things, and we will put Norfolk after it. Next slide, please. So does your website, does it tell customers about yourselves, what you do and where you do it? If you specialise in something, does it say, is it really quite clear? Make sure customers can contact you. If there's an email address on there, make sure it's a generic email address that everyone can pick up on, and it's not somebody's email address who's actually going to be on holiday for 3 weeks or has left. Make sure your website has a basic accessibility. Can you scroll into a web page to make things bigger or smaller? Does it work with text-to-speech software? Make it all those sort of accessible things. Does it look professional? Is it secure? Nobody wants to actually accidentally download anything they shouldn't. If you need any help on getting your website, it's not something that we can offer, but obviously there are services available that can help with your website. Use keywords as well to sort of help people be able to find you. Next slide, please. So consortia and subcontract. This is something that's service to the council, or feel that there was only a part of it that you could do. So it may be. So you may see an opportunity come up and you want to bid for someone. The council will only contract with the lead or prime contractor. So you need to have those arrangements done up front, your agreement on who's going to take the lead. We won't contract with 3 or 4 different companies to provide the same thing. So you need to have got those arrangements in place. We do understand that it may not be formalised if you're not successful, because there'll be money involved. So it may be something that you've got to formalise if you're successful bidding together. Next slide, please. So consortium is usually an association of several companies. This slide just tells you what it is, how you can get to it. I'm not going to read it out because it's there for you. And I should imagine that most of you are aware of what this is. Next slide, please. So subcontracting, you've probably got a good idea of what this is. As I said before, that we will only contract with a lead contractor and only the lead contractor will be paid. So you need to make sure that you've got all that sorted out beforehand. This just sort of goes into a bit more detail. I wanted the slides to be able to be of use to you afterwards and not just a picture of something, because I realise there's an awful lot of text that I've waffled on about. So I want you to be able to use these. Next slide, please. These are all the links which will be on the slides that I've told you about. The first one is the Supply Norfolk County Council tenders, contracts and procurements. And you can click on those links and they will be able to, you'll be able to register and you'll have access to it. The third one down, Intend Host, it is Norfolk County Council's e-tendering site, and that's everything that we do. If we're going out for quotes and we want to open it up, we don't just want to pick companies from websites, we want everyone to apply, and that could be a reason for that could be that it's specific to the funding that we're given. We have to make it open. So that's something that you need to do. I have put the contracts finder one on there, the ESPO Leak, Crown Commercial, and the Trusted Trader, which I thought might be useful to some smaller organisations. Trusted Trader is used for the people who need to call in a trader, but they just want to make sure that they're legitimate and there's a bit of due diligence being carried out. So hopefully that'll all be helpful to you as well. That's me finished. I know I sort of waffled through that, so if it was too quick, I do apologise.
No, you didn't waffle at all. It was good.
Good.
Particularly like the some of the graphics that were used in there. It seemed to sort of quite sure what was going on with some of that, but it was all good. So we're getting questions in already for you. So I know you're going to stick around, but there's questions coming in based on certainly on this presentation, and I think still coming in from the prior one. But anybody else has any more questions for Annie? We will be doing a second Q&A in about another 15-20 minutes time, so please get your questions lined up. Thanks very much indeed, Annie, that's fantastic. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you all-round guru and business writer Hugh Sayer. Hugh, how are you?
Hi Chris, I'm very well, thank you very much. Just I think I've managed to unmute myself and get the camera rolling, so I think I'm okay here.
It's all going well. It's really good to see you, Hugh. I'm looking forward to this. Over to you whenever you're ready.
Right, well, ready. It's only a 5-minute talk. It's very short. I would like to tell you a tale of desperate woe and harrowing experience of bureaucracy run mad, but unfortunately I have no such excitement for you. I've worked with Norfolk County Council on 2 occasions back in 2018, and it was a remarkably straightforward process. I got approached on the first instance by a wonderful marketing agency called Naked Marketing, who you probably know of. They'd been asked to pitch to write a document about the amazing digital sector in Norwich. They knew I was interested in that sector, that I was connected with that sector, and they asked whether I would join them on the pitch as their copywriter. And I said, yes, of course, as you do. And the nice thing about working with Naked is they're very transparent about the whole process. They put me on their team as a guest, and I wrote a short piece pitching my services as the copywriter, and they wove that into their presentation for their design. And I think their entire pitch deck was 6 or 7 slides. And there was one piece about the copywriting with an estimate of cost. And there were at least 2 other competitors I know. I think there were actually slightly more than that because it was a reasonably important project. And we won the pitch. And working with Norfolk County Council was very straightforward. This is no different to working with any other company. It was a small, tightly knit team to work with on the marketing front. They had a very tight brief, which was good. It meant we knew what we were aiming to do. And when we delivered it, we presented it, they were happy, and it went smoothly. It really wasn't, there wasn't reams of paperwork to do to even get on the pitch list. So that was very straightforward. And then the second opportunity came along. Again, on this occasion, Norfolk County Council contacted me direct and said, would you like to pitch to do some rewriting and editing of our website for Locate Norfolk? And they'd obviously seen the copy I'd done for the digital brochure, and they were happy with that. So I put together a cost estimate, and I got the work, and I know they'd put it out to 2 or 3 other writers as well. And I don't know who they were, but I got the work, and it went very smoothly. Again, on that occasion, it was dealing with just 2 members of the team. So all sign-off process was really easy. There wasn't some awful bureaucratic committee to tear it all apart and so on. So it was very straightforward. So you're probably thinking, well, how did you get there if you're not going through some pitching system, some big procurement system? It's very straightforward. It's old school networking, building your relationships. I've met Naked Marketing on many occasions. I'd been involved in the tech community, so I'd got to know people at Norfolk County Council, particularly in the economic development team. So my name, I guess, was sort of up there on a list of who knows about this and who should we contact, who's local, who's in the area, who's got the skills. I don't think that's any different to working with any other company, any other business. I'm sure if you're doing some major framework document, it might be a different ballgame altogether. But for smaller pieces of work, I'd just urge you to keep networking, keep building relationships with people, and show that you understand your sector, understand your business, and hope to be asked to or invited to pitch for those smaller bits of work that don't take a huge amount of paperwork to actually sort of comply with the pitching requirements. And that is really it, Chris. And I'm sorry, I can't stay around for the questions and answers later, but I've got another Zoom call to go to in about half an hour. But if you've got any immediate questions, and if I've got time, I don't know, Chris, whether you want to...
A little bit of time, actually, if that's okay.
Yep, of course.
I'm keen to sort of pick your brains a bit further if I can, if that's okay. I mean,
of course, yes.
You're obviously very learned because you've got an impressive bookcase, which we'll squeeze you for a bit more information. I mean, it's just, the obvious one really, sort of top tips for anybody thinking about bidding from your perspective.
Do it. I mean, just do it and be very straightforward. Treat it as you would any other business, any other pitch. Put your credentials down, give them a reasonable cost estimate, don't undersell yourself. Be absolutely straightforward about what you can do, about the timings. If they come to you and say, we need this tomorrow, as many companies do, you just push back and say, well, actually, if you want this done well, it will take you 3-4 weeks or whatever it might take. There are things like, can you do photography? No, I'm a business writer. I don't do photography. There are other people who do that much better. And just so you don't always win them. So later that year, I actually got again an invitation to pitch for a different brochure. This was on the food and drink sector. They were organising a trip to the Netherlands, taking a bunch of businesses out there to a big food and drink exhibition with buyers from supermarkets across Europe. And they said, could you write this brochure? And I said, well, yes, I could, but I don't actually have the direct contacts and I don't have the information right at sort of front of mind. So it will take me longer. And actually, you should probably speak to someone like, and I think in the end it went to the writers at the Feast magazine, because they also had the artwork, they had the photography, they had all the connections with the food producers it was fresh to them. So it was something I couldn't pitch for. I didn't think I could reasonably pitch for it in the time available. And so you sort of back down from it.
Yeah. So openness and transparency, you think, really is the key to it, because as you mentioned at the start, that you're not going to be giving terrible tales of bureaucracy and strange things. It's fairly straightforward and an open process, and you should treat it so as well.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think if you think there's any sort of game playing to be done, then I think you're getting very confused. I think you just have to treat it as a straightforward business engagement, and you do your best on it. You pitch your best shot at it, and if you don't think it's what you can do, don't go for it. But if you think you can do it and you can do it well, then go for it and give a quote that you think represents the value that your work is going to generate, and be clear about the timings and exactly what you can and cannot do. And best of luck. I think don't be put off by the fact it's a county council. The team you're working with is going to be highly professional. They're going to know what they want. They should have a decent, nice tight brief, and you should be able to work to it. And I found them just as professional as many, in fact, more professional, in fact, in some cases, than many marketing departments, in terms of them knowing what they wanted, when they wanted it by, how it's going to be delivered, who they would have to work with.
Excellent. So interestingly, you sparked a comment from our mutual friend Brian Bush, who said from his experience to work with Crown Commercial Services that it's that small businesses, I think they're small and they won't win it, but actually they're keen for more to do so. So because it can be much more lucrative for smaller companies and not so scary. I mean, you're a one-man band.
Two-man. Well, one man, one woman. It's just micro business. It's myself, my wife. We've been doing this 20 years. We're used to working remotely, and absolutely, I don't think you should be put off by the scale of the organization. Look at the scale of the work. I mean, if they were asking me to do a 2,000-page document on government policy or whatever, I'd have to hold my hands up and say, I can't fit that in with other client commitments. But it's just like any other invitation to pitch. Particularly if they've contacted you, if you've been asked, or through an agency, if an agency comes to you and said, will you work with us? And you trust that agency, as I did with Naked. I knew they were exceptionally good. I knew I could rely on them to be as professional. Go for it. If you can do the work, do the work. And don't feel that just because they're Crown Commercial or County Council that they're somehow inaccessible. And that's why I think it's so important to then be out there in the community, in the business community, networking, Norfolk Chamber events or whatever it might be, IOD or other competitors to the Norfolk Chamber who might be available. But be out there and be known for what you.
We're all good.
Yeah, well, but just do as you would in any other business circumstance. You get out there, you get known for being someone who is professional, who understands their sector and their topics that they specialize in. But be honest about your limitations as well. So if they ask you to do something you can't do, just be upfront. Say, it's very kind of you to ask, but it's not me. But if you can recommend someone else, well, I do that. Recommend someone else, because it all goes round.
Okay. Hugh, what a superstar. Thank you so much indeed. And thank you for allowing me to ask you some questions.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on, and I hope the rest of the afternoon goes well.
Okay, so you go hot-footed to your next meeting.
I will indeed. Cheers now. Take care. Bye.
Right, thank you. So here we go on to our final case study now. And to do that, I'd like to welcome Lou Gardner, who is the owner of ACE. Lou, are you there?
Yes, I'm here and ready to start. So,
fantastic. Well, there you go. I can't say further than that. There you go.
Right. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm Lou Gardner. I am the founder and managing director of ACE. We're in our 10th year of trading now, and we're actually a community interest company who provide education, training and support to those people that sort of need a little bit more help than normal. Next slide, please. Okay, who do we work with? Well, we work with children, young people and adults. I think our youngest that we work with is 7, and I think our oldest on programme at the moment is 65 years old. So the kind of work we do is we go into schools and work with people that are having difficulties in school or difficulties with engagement or exclusion. We run a full college programme, which we're very proud of. We also do adult education, we deliver qualifications, and then we've got a number of adult projects that are mainly run on an outreach basis that support people back into employment, self-employment, or on wellbeing projects. Most of our work actually is subcontracted from other organisations. So we've experienced lots of different procurement systems and DPSs as well. So we normally work with local colleges, local authorities and other grant aided organisations. So for example, we work with the College of West Anglia for all our college study programmes and our adult education learning programme. We work with East Coast College for our BBO and employment, self-employment and wellbeing programmes. Now, interestingly, that's done through a DPS, and you know, it's very similar to the procurement system that we work with Norfolk County Council. So our schools work is often paid for directly by the school, but we have had some experience working with Norfolk County Council and the Norwich Opportunity Area work. So we did alternative provision, and our other project for that was the World of Work. So that's our experience, and it's been a good experience as well. Next slide, please. So you'll see we've got quite a list there of vocational areas we work in and we deliver qualifications in, and that's just a few, that's not all of them. We have a base at Rackheath on the industrial estate, and we operate out of 3 industrial units. One we've got set up for construction skills, one we've got set up as a motor vehicle and engineering workshop, and we've got a catering, hospitality, training kitchen in our other building. In all these buildings, we've got office space, but we've also got classrooms to deliver English and maths and the other subjects that don't need specific areas. Next slide, please. Okay, how did we find out about Norfolk County Council bids? So, you know, and I'm here today to talk about my experiences, and watching the other presenters, a lot of what I'm going to say is actually very similar. So I haven't got a crystal ball. I don't just look in my crystal ball and know what's happened, but I have lots of colleagues and I have network organisations and people that I've built relationships over the time. And I'd like to think actually we all help each other out. So if I find out about something, quite often I'll tip the wink or tell somebody else, because quite often it's not just one person or one organisation they're looking for, it's a number with the ones that we've been involved in. And like who said, what goes around comes around. So it's about helping each other. So I have access to a number of procurement systems, and I'm glad to see that Annie put the load up on the website because I can't remember the names of any of them. But I've got links, and every so often emails pop into my box that says, oh, there's this contract or this is happening, you may be interested. Now, I probably almost delete more than I actually go for, but I'm just afraid of missing out. So we were able to put in some filters to say this is where we're able to work, this is the kind of work that we do. So my tip really is make sure you know what's going on, you know, talk to people, you know, invest that time networking, finding out what's going on, ask the questions about what's coming up in the future. You know, the other day somebody said to me, what is it actually you do at ACE, Lou? And I said, well, jokingly, I drink tea and talk to people. And actually, you know, that is pretty true. Now, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of speaking to your colleagues and registering with all the sites and the different systems that you've got. Tailor it to your service, and you know, just make sure you too don't miss out on anything. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm good at talking, I'm not so good at writing and filling forms in, and I do have some help at ACE with that. But initially, I was actually really scared of the tendering process and thought it was too hard. And you know, you're sort of thinking, oh God, how am I going to do it? It's going to be too hard answering all these questions. But in actual fact, there's always a name on the document, somebody you can pick the phone up and you can talk to and you can ask a question. And there aren't no silly questions. I mean, I've asked them fairly silly questions in the past. So I always feel comfortable now. So I'm almost sort of scared to say it, a fear of jinxing it. But actually, it's quite easy. So the bids, the paperwork is downloaded or emailed across to us. You know, read it very carefully and answer the questions. Don't try and be fancy, and don't say you'll deliver something that you can't deliver. Same as everybody else is saying. Remember, though, to complete your budget, because if it's not in the budget, you're going to end up doing work that you're not going to get paid for. Next slide, please. So, hints and tips. So I had about 30 tips and hints for you, and I've put it down to 7 now. So my number 1 tip is read again and make notes and read and scope out your idea. Number 2, don't just apply for anything, make sure that you can actually deliver it. Number 3, ask questions and clarify, chat through your bright ideas with others. Number 4, if you're sure it's for your organisation, give it a shot. It's always worth a try. Answer the questions carefully and check you've answered all the questions. Now, there's been many a time when I've looked and thought I've answered the question, but in actual fact, I've just spouted on about something I really like. So make sure you're answering the questions. Look carefully. Look at the weighting score. It will give you an idea of what's important. And again, I think Annie said this, you know, don't write your bid based on the weighting score, but look at it. It will give you an idea. And final, my last tip is if you don't actually get the contract, don't forget to ask for feedback and certainly apply again, because you might not get it first time round, but it's all a learning curve. Next slide. And finally, back to ACE a little bit, we tell our students to believe the impossible. And sometimes I have to say that to myself when I look at a contract and I think, oh, it's too hard or I can't do that. So believe the impossible and give it a go. And then what our students say about ACE is that we're amazing, creative and enthusiastic. So thank you for that. And I guess there'll be questions when the question time comes up. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no, Lou, thank you very much. It sounds like it's either feeding time or someone's knocked on your front door.
Yeah, I have, sorry.
Burglar alarms are going off. Absolutely brilliant. The whole concept of top tips is just what's needed in webinars and events like this. So thank you. I mean, we probably could have listened to the 30. I bet they're all good, but the ones that you've provided with us are great. And if you don't mind, what we'll do is we'll ask you if we can share those as well post event. But thank you very much indeed for your time. That was fantastic. Okay, so moving on now, last but no means least, and here to talk about grants, recovery and resilience, I'd like to welcome Jason Middleton from the New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnership. Jason, are you there?
I am here. Hello, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody. I've got the graveyard shift, but I'll try and keep you all awake. I'm going to talk about business resilience and recovery, and I'm also going to go through some of the grants and support that New Anglia Local Enterprise Partnerships has available that you can help you and you can access. It's quite broad. And I'm going to go through these quite quickly, but you'll get a copy of these slides, and I've done it in a way that you can use them as reference to look at the schemes and see whether any of them are applied to you. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to be honest, business support is really, really complicated. I mean, it's massively complicated. I've been in this business for 25 years, and I think at any one time there are about 4,000 schemes, if not more, and that's a best estimate. Next slide, please. Finding what you need can be incredibly difficult. A lot of businesses go on Google, search engines, they'll talk to people. But the reality is trying to find exactly what you need as a business. It's not like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's trying to find a needle in a field of haystacks. It can be really difficult, but don't worry, there is help at hand and it is completely free. Next slide, please. So this is where New Anglia Growth Hub comes in. New Anglia Growth Hub has been around for about 5 years. New Anglia LEP worked with a range of other organisations, including government, to help set these up. And there is actually a growth hub in each area of England. There are 38 local enterprise partnerships, and there are growth hubs covering those areas. In the devolved areas, there are slightly different setups, but in Wales, for example, there's the Wales Development Agency, which is our equivalent. Next slide, please. So what is New Anglia Growth Hub, and what does New Anglia Growth Hub do? Okay, very, very simply, it is a location that you can go to. These are real people to provide you with a wide range of help and support. It's completely free. It's impartial and it's confidential. So you can talk to them about anything that relates to your business. It's not going anywhere. We're not going to go and talk to the tax office or HMRC or your local council and dob you in if you've got some issues. We are going to help you and we are going to support you and your businesses. And this is really, really important. There's a team of experienced peripatetic advisors. They're all currently locked away in their homes because of lockdown, but they're available via the web, email, telephone and video calls. I've given up counting how many different video platforms the growth advisors have got on their computer. It's huge, but they are there for you to talk to. So you can call in, you can email, you can video call, and a real person is there to help you, to talk to you through your business. They will undertake a review of your business. Now, you will know your business really well, but it is incredibly helpful to get someone external to talk to, for them to sort of have a strategic overview, to ask you some challenging questions, to help you ask those challenging questions, to come up with solutions to some of the issues that you will be facing on a day-to-day basis. Now, these may be short-term solutions, they may be long-term solutions, but the Growth Hub is there to help you to undertake that review of your business and come up with solutions. They've got access to thousands of local and national support and advice. This is not just a case of a person talks to you and then that's the end of it. They can signpost you to specialists, they can signpost you to funding, they can signpost you to public and private sector organisations to help if you need more advanced support and help. And one of the things I'm going to talk to you about is they can help signpost you to grants and financial support. And obviously in the current climate, that's hugely important. Next slide, please. So I'm now going to go through 7 of the schemes that we operate currently. These schemes are changing all the time. And at any time, if you've got any queries about these schemes, you will notice at the bottom, there is the Growth Hub telephone number. I'm sorry, this sounds like a sales pitch. Please write this down and remember it, 0300 333 6536. It's a free phone number. It's available from 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. You can talk to an individual, they'll signpost you or forward you onto an advisor. If what you're talking about is more in depth, we can arrange for someone to call you back or video call you back. So if there's anything that's business related that you're wanting advice and help on, please give that telephone number a ring. It might be, how do I access some of the COVID grants? It might be, what's the threshold for VAT? It might be a 30-second phone call. Give them a call, that's what they're there for. So to give you a scope of the grants that we provide this year in 2020-21, we're going to give about £12.5 million of grants away to SMEs. They are grants. Okay, I know it sounds quite obvious. We don't want the money back. We want you to invest that money in your business. This is not a loan. This is money that you get and you keep to invest in whatever we've agreed with you to grow your business. So our grants start at £1,000. I'm going to start with the small grant scheme. This is our smallest grants. They go up to 500,000. I'll talk about the big schemes at the end. So small grant scheme, grants between £1,000 and £25,000. They can give you up to 20% of your costs for your particular project. This is capital and revenue funding, so you can buy bits of kit. You can improve premises, you could buy premises, you can buy software, you can buy computers, you can employ consultants. There's a whole range of things you can use with this particular scheme. It's geared around business growth, which I know is difficult in the current climate, but the definition of business growth is quite broad. So if in doubt, come and talk to us. It's a very simplified application and approval process. I don't like complicated. I have to deal with complicated on a daily basis, talking to colleagues within government departments, and it's my job to try and make that complicated simple and easy for you. And it is a very simple application process. It takes about 4 weeks to gain approval. I say 4 weeks, it is usually less than that, but I like to under promise and over deliver. I'd much rather you get a decision quicker than you thought you were than wait. And there is currently about £150,000 of funding still available in that particular grant scheme. So if you're interested, please ring the telephone number and have a chat with someone. Next slide, please. Second grant scheme looks very familiar to the first one. It's the sister of the small grant scheme, our Growth Through Innovation or GTI fund. Again, grants between 1,000 and 25,000. This is to support businesses who wish to implement innovation, research or development in their business. And for that reason, it's up to 50%. All these grants are up to. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed the exact higher figure, but that's the maximum you could potentially have. Capital and revenue funding again. When we talk about innovation and R&D, we're not talking about developing an iPhone or developing a computer or building a space rocket. We could be talking about putting new stock control systems into your business. We could be talking about new manufacturing techniques. We could be talking about new ways of delivering a particular service. If it's innovative to your business, it's innovation and potentially research and development. Again, a simplified application and approval process, 4 weeks. £1.6 million of that fund is still available because it was only launched in April. And to make life really easy, it's exactly the same application fund as the small grant scheme. So if we go through the application process and we realise you fit into one scheme better than another, we just change the box at the top, we tick. We don't ask you to fill another form in. That's not fair on you. We try and keep it simple. Next slide, please. So the next scheme is our Business Resilience and Recovery Scheme. This is a brand new scheme, which we put together in about 3 weeks in response to the pandemic. This sits above the small grant scheme. It's grants between 25,000 and 50,000. In fact, apologies, I've just spotted there's an error on my slide. It's 40%, not 50%. I put my hand up, sorry. That's changed at the beginning of October. I will make sure the version you get sent round is modified. Capital funding for SMEs up to 40%, which is the right figure. It's to support business resilience and recovery. This is not so much targeted at growth. If you're looking to diversify because you've been impacted by COVID, this is potentially a grant program for you. There is about £3.3 million of funding still available. Simplified application and approval, about 4 weeks. Guess what? Same application form as small grant scheme and GTI scheme. So if you fit into this scheme or you fit into the others and we want to move you across, really easy process for us. You don't have to fill another form in. Next slide, please. Linked to the BR&R scheme grants is our consultancy scheme for BR&R. We've put this in place because we know there are businesses out there which could do with a little bit of specialist help and support. And there are a group of consultants which we've gone out to and procured. I'm the procurement lead within the LEP, so I've overseen that process to make sure it's fully compliant. Wide range of topics covered, almost anything you can think of. And the idea is we can get an individual or an organisation to come and talk to you in your business to help identify solutions to some of the issues that you're facing. Up to 100% of the costs can be covered. The amount you get depends on the size of your business, so please come and talk to us. The application form for this is even more simple. It's a 2-week approval process because we want to get the consultant in. And what we find with this particular scheme is a business will contact us. They'll talk to a growth advisor for several hours. They'll do several video calls. An issue will be identified, and then we will look to identify and we're working with you to get a consultant in. The consultant will work with you. they will produce a report, and on the back of the report, you then could potentially be eligible for one of the grant schemes to enable you to implement the findings of the report that the consultant has helped you with. So this is a really, really good scheme. The take-up for this has been amazingly low. It always is with this sort of stuff, consultancy. I've never understood why. I think people think there's a catch. There isn't a catch. Really, really good. So if you've got an issue in your business you're trying to unblock or resolve, and you need some more specialist help or advice, please contact the Growth Hub on that telephone number, and we will have a look to see whether you're eligible for this scheme. And if you are, we can arrange a consultant to come and talk to you. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the final grant scheme before I talk about some of the other programs we've got. This is our Growing Business Fund. It's our oldest grant scheme. It's been around since 2013. It's the granddad of grants, 25 to 500,000. So big grants. So the projects for this are going to be up to or bigger than 2.5 million. So some really biggies, but again, aimed at small and medium sized businesses, up to 20%. It is capital funding, it's not revenue, so it's got to be things you can physically own or hold. I always say if you can hold an item a bit like a mug or a computer, then it's a capital item. It's there to support business growth. Obviously, in the current climate, the definition of business growth is fairly broad. The application process for this does take longer than the other schemes. That's because of the volume and the amount of money that we're giving away. So I always say it's 2 months. Some of them can take longer than that. So for example, if you're looking for, you need planning permission or licenses, grants can take a little longer. There is still funding available in this scheme. There's £1 million available. However, the money is going fast, and we've got a lot of businesses that are in that pipeline, and we're looking to move some funds around to see whether we can extend that. But again, if you're interested in that particular scheme, please give the Growth Hub a ring. Next slide, please. And then there are then 2 final schemes which are not grants. The first is our peer network. This is a brand new program, was launched at the beginning of October. It's part of a national program. And the idea of this is we are going to provide facilitated support to 250 SMEs across across New Anglia, so across Norfolk and Suffolk. And they're held in groups of 11. They're obviously virtual events, and the idea is this will provide you with 18 hours of support plus half day of one-to-one support. And don't worry, you don't have to have the 18 hours all in one go, and you certainly don't have to have the half day of one-to-one in one chunk. They're normally 2 or 3 hour sessions in your groups of 11, and they will be the same group all the way through the process. It's essentially a 9-week program. The idea of this program is to work within your cohort to identify the barriers to your business growth, to identify issues. It's a bit like having the consultants, but it's you doing it within a cohort with other business owners. We will deliberately mix those groups so you're not working with competitors. Chatham House rules will apply, so anything you talk about will stay within your group and it will not be spread any further. If there are barriers during that process, obviously that's where the one-to-one comes in, and it's essentially a collaborative learning process for you to identify issues and challenges. And again, if you're interested in that scheme, give the Growth Hub a ring and let them know. Next slide, please. And then on top of that is what we call our Scale-Up program. This is essentially a more advanced version of the peer network. This scheme has been in place for several years. And we are known nationally as one of the highest performing areas in terms of scale up activity, in terms of the support we provide. This is aimed at businesses that have got high growth potential. It doesn't mean your growth has got to be high now, but you've got to be willing to grow, and you've got to have the impetus and things in place that will enable you to grow your business quickly. And the idea is this is there to facilitate the acceleration of that process. It's a bit like a VIP club. So like the peer network, it will be peer support with like-minded business owners. It gives you the opportunity to share knowledge and information and learn from others who have gone through that growth process so they can share their experiences. And it also enables you to tap into local, national and international delivery. We work with Norwich Business School, we work with Aston Business School, and we also work with Babson College in the States on this program. So there's a wide range of knowledge that can feed into that process. There is a website, scaleupnewanglia.co.uk, and there's a simple questionnaire you can fill in to find out if you qualify. It's not black and white. If you don't meet the criteria, It's not a case of you can't come in. We will work with you to help you meet that criteria, because we want to support as many businesses as physically possible. Next slide, please. Sorry, that was a whistle stop tour, and I am going to say the telephone number one more time. I want you to be completely sick of me mentioning this. It's 0300 333 6536. If there's anything that relates to business support that you think you want some help or advice or guidance on, please give them a ring. And if you don't want to ring them, go on to growthhub@newanglia.co.uk. Thank you very much.
Hey, Jason, thank you so much indeed for all of that. You managed to whistle through probably a lifetime's worth of work in 10 minutes. It's pretty good going. And I certainly would endorse your comments. If anyone who is tuned into this has not spent any time with the Growth Hub, then they certainly should. You'd be amazed at what's available to support businesses, particularly in these most challenging times and times to come. So thank you so much for bringing that to all our attention. And needless to say, I mean, I'll cover it off at the end, but we will be circulating quite a lot of information about every speaker and all activity, and in particular the activity from the Growth Hub too. Thank you, Jason. So now it's just time for our second Q&A. Again, we've got quite a few questions that are coming through the Q&A app, and we've got some other ones that have come through from email and chat. So I'm going to ask Annie to reappear, if that's okay, because a few of these are directed at you, Annie, as you'd expect. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's dive straight in. Here's an interesting one. If no contract is awarded to any bidder, then what happens?
Well, it all depends on the reason as to why no contract was awarded. If it was a case of the budget wasn't big enough, we would seek feedback from those who expressed an interest perhaps, and then decided that not to bid, or if we received no bids, we would engage with the market to find out why. But if it was a service that we still needed, then perhaps we would look at redoing the spec, redoing the budget, or under contract regulations, we are allowed then to call it a failed procurement and negotiate with a company to get exactly what we want. But 9 times out of 10, we would engage with the market to find out why no one had bid. What had we done wrong?
Does that happen often?
No, thankfully.
Does it happen very often?
No, it doesn't, thankfully.
Excellent. A specific question here. Hi, Annie, thank you for your presentation. What procurement method do you usually use for legal services?
That all depends on the value. Everything is donated. What process we go is by the value. So if we're looking for a legal service, maybe if it was under £50,000, we would be using the website to go to 3 to 5 companies that perhaps we'd used before. Or if we didn't know if there's any suitable companies, regardless of the value, we would put it on Contracts Finder, and again on our e-tendering site, and either OJU or the new website, which will be live as of the 1st of January.
Okay, thank you. This is a message, a question from Tracy. Annie mentioned notes that she'd written about social values. Where can we get those notes?
They're on the slides. Underneath the slides is a notes page, which I use to help my memory because I'm getting old. So it was on there. So there's a link on there about social value as well. But during a tender, if it's not clear about social value, then ask the question if there's going to be a question on it, or if it's for 9 times out of 10, if it's for a social care contract, then social value is already included within the specification.
Okay. Tracy will be circulating heaps of notes after this session, so it's bound to be in there. I'm absolutely sure of it. Specific question here from Brian. What's your view of companies like Tend Limited, and do they provide an added service?
I haven't heard of that one in particular. I'm not quite sure what Tend is. If it's one of those companies that you pay for, I've never used one, so I wouldn't know. I would say that there is, to my way of thinking, this is just my opinion, you shouldn't have to pay to find out about opportunities. You could use the sites that I've mentioned, which are free, and most of the sites that you pay for, from what I've been told, feed into these free sites anyway.
It's called Intend. It's my reading. I beg your
Oh,
pardon.
sorry, Intend. Intend is the system that the council uses to conduct all our tender activities. There's quite a few out there. There's Pro North. There's various other ones that different companies use, different councils use. We use Intend. And from my personal experience of using it, I found it's really quite good.
Excellent. Thank you very much. A few more. You've been busy while you've been, we've been busy while you had your camera off. Here's a great one. How will Brexit change procurement rules? How will Brexit?
Lovely question. Thank you. It's changing the rules. Whereas we used to have to put things on OJU, we've now got this new site, which was, I think, was the last slide that I added on. I only got to hear about it about 2 or 3 days ago, so it's something relatively new to us. The actual legislation around it, how that would change, I haven't got a clue. Being really honest, it's something that we will find out about. I shouldn't think it would change in the way that we have to be open, transparent and fair in the way we do things. And I see that most of our processes that we use now won't change. It will just be where they're advertised.
Okay. Couple more and then I'll leave you in peace.
No, I'm enjoying this.
Are you really? If you could be an animal, what kind of animal would you be and why? Because that's not really on topic, is it? Do other public service organisations procure in the same way? For example, the NHS or the police force?
The police force have got their own procurement team. They'll be bound by the public contract regulations, I believe. If I'm wrong, no doubt somebody will tell me. The NHS, we do a lot of work with the NHS. We do joined up integrated commissioning with them, looking at social and health care. They have got their own procurement regulations as well. They came to the 2015 regs a year later than we did, but yes, we're all open, transparent, as fair as possible, and we're trying to make things as simple for people to bid as possible.
Okay, thank you. Nigel has asked a question. Is there a mechanism to become a registered company with Norfolk County Council for particular professional services other than a framework?
You can register on Intend, and then you'll be alerted of any opportunities if we want to advertise anything. There are frameworks, there are also lists or pre-approved, but the transport one, and there's various other DPSs, which is a dynamic purchasing system. It's a set of questions that you have to answer and pass to be on this list, which work is then awarded via a further competition or more usually by direct award.
Okay, thank you. Is it acceptable to approach the council regarding services directly?
No.
Okay.
It would be people like me that you would be sort of selling your services to, as it were, and we're in no position to be able to offer you any work or anything like that. It's not like dropping in on a garage or dropping in on a building site to let them know that you've got paving slabs or on offer. That's not something that the council is able to do, and because we've got to be open and transparent as much as possible, then all our opportunities are advertised to give everybody the same shot. Saying that, if you're in a niche organisation, then do speak to the council. If you know somebody, if you've done business with somebody before, or you've been awarded a contract, contact them to say if they've got anything coming up and when it's likely to be advertised, or could you be part of it?
Okay, thank you. And last one, I promise. Do you ever hold Meet the Buyer events where we can just speak to someone from the council to showcase our services?
I wish we did. We used to many moons ago. Obviously, we haven't got the luxury of being able to meet people face to face. We do engagements at the start of any procurement or before we actually go out for a procurement. Again, these opportunities are advertised on our Intend e-tendering site. And we have one-to-ones. We're using Teams quite a bit for that, where we'll actually speak to you. It is, I mean, I would love to do meet the buyer events so people can actually meet us and find out what's happening. We have a pipeline of work, and it would be sort of quite useful to be able to sort of share that, to learn about it. For instance, if we were going out to buy pink socks, I always use that example, but actually the market knew that there was a bigger contract had recently been awarded and the market was absolutely swamped with getting this order for pink socks out, then it'd be the wrong time for us to come and buy it. That's the sort of things that we need to know. We need to engage more with the market in particular services.
Okay, well, let's talk then. Maybe when everything starts to become a bit more normal, we'll see what we can do to pull together
Definitely.
a group to do a meet the buyer program for you. Would be absolutely fine. Right, okay, thank you, Annie, that's been brilliant. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for all tuning and listening. Before you go, don't click off yet. I've got a couple of more things to tell you about some very important things. We're also going to do a quick poll, one last poll before you go, if that's okay. If you have a quick look, it should be coming up any moment now. There we go. After today's webinar, do you feel more ready to bid for public sector work? Hey, look at that. Oh, it's going up. Fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. We seem to have made a difference, which is what it's all about, doesn't it? We've got
that's good news.
We've got more confident leading and very confident. There we go. Let me share the results.
That's brilliant.
There we go.
Oh, sorry, I thought.
Okay, so so there's heaps more support to come, ladies and gentlemen. So stand by your emails because we'll be sending various bits and bobs through. We'll follow up on all the answers to the questions and notes that we've got, and we will share everything, including the recording of this webinar. Most importantly, well, not most importantly, but really importantly, there is a new free procurement website which has gone live today on the Chamber's website. It's interactive and it will help you enormously in taking you through logically a series of questions that you ask to provide you the answers, and we've produced that in collaboration with Norfolk County Council. So we'll send you a link to that as well. So it should help you give some insight as to how to bid, when to bid, what to do, when to do it, and so on and so forth. Let me thank all our speakers, our sponsor Norfolk County Council, my colleagues Kayleen and Nova, who've been in the background pressing all the buttons and knobs. And of course, to all of our speakers as well. And of course, to you for attending. And that's it from us. Time to get bidding. See you soon.